Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto stage the producer of SMWX and tonight's MC, Oratile Gegana.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our first SMWX live event. It's an absolute honor to have you all here with us tonight. Welcome to everyone else who's online, joining us live on the SMWX YouTube channel. This live event is being created so that we have a space here to engage, have important conversations, and to connect. When we always release episodes over YouTube, it's very easy for us to look at the views and be proud of the hundreds of thousands of people that are watching. But it's always amazing to meet and connect with everyone that supports and watches SMWX. We'd like to thank the sponsors who've helped us to put this event together. A special thanks to Artistry, to AdReach, to Sky Bookings, to Pace Car Rental, and to Qoitech for putting this event, for helping us put this event together. The hashtag for the night is hashtag SMW event. Please, let's flood the social media streets with the hashtag SMW event. Let's make it trend. Let's make the guys that are home wish that they were here with us. There will be prizes at the end for the best tweet from in studio and at home. So please keep those social media posts coming. As you have seen downstairs, there's also an SMWX merch shop. So please, within the breaks, when we break the sessions afterwards, please do help yourselves to some SMWX merch. Not free, unfortunately. We've got to keep the lights on. So there's a store downstairs. Please support the SMWX pop-up shop. Throughout the night, I'll be recognizing some of the guests that we have today and we've had the honor of hosting some really, really important people. I mean, everyone's very important, but some people in really key positions. And we'd really like to thank them for giving us this honor of attending our event. First up, I'm going to announce that we've got Prof. Soma Dotafikeni in the house today. He is at the Public Service Commission. We've also got political analyst Sandile Swana, who's also with us today. We've got the spokesperson of the U.S. Consulate, which is Rubani Trimia, who's also in the house today. And we've got the acting High Commissioner of Malaysia, Mr. Yap Wei Sin. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. As we continue the event, I'll be introducing some more guests that we have today. Just a brief overview of today's program. We'll have the first session, which is a panel between Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh and Mr. Herman Mashaba, Action SA President, followed by a Q&A. And then we'll take a comfort break. We'll have a performance. And when we come back, we'll have the second panel, which has 3 panelists moderated by Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh. Thank you again for joining us. If you need the bathrooms, they're downstairs. Underneath the stairs, turn left. And we hope that you have an incredible evening with us. It gives me great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome onto stage host and founder of SMWX, acclaimed author, digital creator, innovator, scholar, and an all-round the guy, Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, everybody.
Can I get an ayeye? Can I get an ayeye? Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. This is a particularly special moment for me, for Oratile, for our team. Before I get started, as Oratile has mentioned, we're going to be acknowledging the various people who are here throughout the evening, but I would be remiss if I didn't begin with none other than the people's advocate himself, Advocate Dali Mpofu. Please give it up. Now, many of you may not know, but he's actually responsible for all the guests who come on SMWX, if social media is to be believed. So we have a weekly meeting where we discuss which guests need to come on. So he's the shadow producer of the podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Dad. My mother, Teresa Oakley-Smith. She has brought her sister, my aunt, with from London. So great to have you too. And no introduction would be complete without my beautiful, wonderful, intelligent wife, Sumaya Hendricks. So great to have you here. Before we get started, one of the things we've done tonight is we have invited people who have been part of SMWX's journey from the start. So I won't necessarily ask for a round of applause for all of these people, but I thought before I acknowledge some of the VVIPs in the room, there is a person in the room called Matei Borole. He was one of the first people who conceptualized this idea with me. He's here tonight. Various of the teams and the camera people and the producers are here. People like Vuyani Bila from Art's Sake, Tsolanang Rapu, who is a former producer of SMWX. So the family right from 6 years ago is here with us tonight. And I'd also like to acknowledge them. Thank you for building this platform to the place that it is. Great, well, we've got VAT chaos to discuss. We've got a GNU to dissect. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming tonight's first panelist, none other than the leader of Action SA, Mr. VAT Man or no VAT Man, Herman Mashaba. Give it up for Herman Mashaba, people. Mr. Mashaba, thank you so much for joining us. We didn't plan that all this VAT chaos would ensue when we invited you many weeks ago, but my goodness, you found yourself at the center of South African politics. Firstly, thank you so much for joining us tonight and being our first ever guest in an SMWX live panel.
Thank you so much, Sizwe, and the audience. It's interesting that you invited me a few weeks ago, and because if it was you, there are some people in life I'm scared of, so I just accepted. And, my diary was open, so I said to my office, accept. But then all hell broke loose in the country.
Yeah.
I lost track of what's happening around me until I think about an hour or two ago, I go through my diary. I see I've got the engagement. Then I had to immediately call Masha to say, Masha, I see I've got this engagement. Can you brief me? Because I'm not sure what I've accepted. So thank you for giving me the brief, and thank you for giving me this opportunity on this historic moment in our country.
Absolutely. We didn't tell you in the brief, but we're actually going to lock the doors until VAT is taken down. So, Mr. Mashaba, I guess, you've been right at the center of this question. And my first question to you is, do you believe VAT is actually going to be reduced on the 1st of May?
No, VAT is not going to be reduced. There's not going to be any VAT adjustment on the 1st of May. In fact, I'm sure a few hours ago, the Commissioner of SARS has already written to businesses to let them know about this, and those that cannot reverse, he's given them until the 15th. So it's already in the government gazette. There's not going to be VAT. And it's interesting that this deal, I clinched it in my offices 2 minutes away from here. I've got offices on Fredman Drive for the last 20 years or so, and on a Sunday when I had a meeting with the ANC, and that's when we gave them this proposal to save our country from collapse, because their coalition partners or the GNU partners wanted to collapse this country to not have the budget. And I think I personally took it personal to say, you know what, I might not agree or like the ANC for what they've done to this country. But when you now start using extortion to eradicate the ANC, to do things that are going to affect the whole country, at the time when they're going all over the world saying bad things are happening in South Africa, when I have no idea what they're talking about. I said, this particular one, fortunate enough, it is within my powers to stop it. And I said to the ANC, if you're willing, here's a proposal, let's work it out and ensure that we pass the fiscal framework. It was on a Sunday, and Tuesday was the meeting of the Standing Committee on Finance. Yeah, and everything else is history. And I know, I can't say majority because I don't have official data, but I know some South Africans were skeptical. In fact, even some of my colleagues didn't really believe that I will deliver this, or we will deliver this, because I didn't deliver it on my own. It was a team effort with bringing other parties on board. I think I remember even some of the guys who voted with us we did not get the opportunity to brief them properly the implications of that report. And that report is it's a public document, you know.
So can I stop you there just briefly and just ask you this, because you said it was a team effort, but some people are still skeptical that it's actually technically legally possible to do this. How do you see this happening so that this becomes a law? What is the path through Parliament to get this done in time?
Look, I think this will happen in line with national budget processes over the years. The only difference this year is because ANC does not have the majority. If ANC had the majority, it would have gone through smoothly without any hiccups. Unfortunately, this time, because of the loss of the majority and the extortionist partners wanted to blackmail them to reverse the gains of our country. It's terrible past. That's why we had this hiccup and there's this delay. So everything else will go through the divisions of the budget, through the various committees, through the National Assembly and so forth. That's the only difference. The minister has already put in the Gazette, it's already there. The National Treasury team putting together the budget. Then the next framework is going to be presented through to the chair of the Finance Committee will then debate it there, then it'll go to Parliament. The only difference that you'll get there is going to be the same budget with VAT out, but then replacing the revenue from VAT will be something else. What is that something else right now? I don't know exactly because I think it's something outside our scope. We submitted a Section SA, which something we shared with the ANC when we had a meeting with them to say, guys, there's no need for VAT. Here's the low-hanging fruit. We gave them 110 billion rands of alternatives in terms of revenue streams, savings from corruption, mismanagement, and so forth. It says there's just no need whatsoever to punish South Africans to bring this this VAT issue into your budget process.
Do you see all of this happening in the next 2 working days after on Tuesdays and
Wednesdays? It'll happen within the next few months. Okay. Obviously, committees will have to see it. Parliament is on recess right now. Yeah, it'll happen within the next coming weeks and months because it goes through so many committees till it obviously goes. The final budget goes to the National Assembly. Right now, the minister has got the powers to change the VAT. The VAT Act of 1991 allows the minister to change it.
Your interpretation is that as long as he makes an announcement that there's a change, that is the same thing as when he tabled
Absolutely.
his budget in Parliament.
Absolutely. That's why even SARS has already communicated that officially it is in the government gazette. And it'll be interesting to see if there'll be any other political party that can object on the process, wanting VAT back. So it'll be interesting.
Take us behind the scenes of this crisis in some ways in South African politics, where you've been at the center. What have some of the conversations with the ANC been like, given that firstly you elected not to go into the multi-party coalition, and now you in many ways are at least driving this budget process more than, shall we say, some parties who are supposed to be key partners in the coalition. How did all of this happen behind the scenes?
Well, after the national elections, which I was disappointed because I always aim high, but reality don't. But it happens. I know over 40 years in business, I tried so many ventures of products that dismally failed, and I was optimistic and put money behind them, but they fail. That's life. But one thing that I credit myself, and I was brought up like that, it's in my DNA. I'm not afraid of risk if I believe in something. Whether it's going to work or not, I think I'm not a victim or a prisoner of being afraid of risks when necessary. So after the elections, got 6 members of parliament, and actually it dawned on me to say, Herman, don't be crazy to think you failed. You have not. Your party is 4 years old. You are now represented in all 3 spheres of government. You've got massive representation in 6 municipalities. You are now in 3 provinces. You now have 6 members of parliament. I remember when I shared the news to my team, something I knew even before that, whatever number we get, I'm not going to parliament. I mean, it's not for me. I'll be a wrong person to be in parliament. I honestly believe so. You know? So I said to the team, we went out on a start session to plan, and I said, guys, I'm not going to parliament. I tell you, the team nearly collapsed. They tried every trick in the book, including actually getting my wife, who has also insisted that I go to parliament because people voted for me. I convinced them. Luckily, they accepted. It was the 6 of them. I took top 6, and I said, "These are the guys. Let's give them the support." The only thing we demand of them is that they must go and box as 60, not as 6. We said, go and box as 60. It's 3 or 6 of you, but go and box as 60. And I'm not disappointed. Really very proud of that decision because 2 things, 3 in fact. If I'd gone to parliament, I would not have delivered Tshwane. I would not have removed the Celia Brink from Tshwane because that removal needed someone to be tactical on how we're going to do it, because I knew there was going to be massive resistance, and there was. But I was determined that we were going to remove this man. We've tried so hard to get him to come to his senses that this country belongs to all of us. People of Mamelodi, Atteridgeville, Harankua, are not in that environment because they wanted to be there. They are there because of many years of your making. So we really tried. And I reached a stage where I said, they are out. As soon as I made that announcement, all hell broke loose, including even my black journalist thought, this man is gone crazy, removing this greatest mayor in the world, the white mayor that the world has never seen. You know, I was under attack, but we delivered Tshwane. And Tshwane was in a mess. And fortunate enough, as much as I'm not an accountant, but I've got a clear sense of numbers. I was saying, talking to colleagues earlier on before you came in. Friday like this, when I was in Form 4, Form 5, 1978, 79, most of you were not born yet. This time I'll be at the gambling place. I'm a Knoxman. I was an official Knoxman. You know what a Knoxman is? I don't think you'll have an idea.
Sounds like an old form of...
No, a Knoxman, what happens in a game of gambling, of dice, there has to be government. No, Knoxman it's a government. You set the rules. You set the rules as to who can play, what's the minimum bet, you can keep changing, and you resolve issues because in a gambling space, there's every 5 minutes there's a squabble, there's an issue. So you need a strong government that believes in the rule of law.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
So for some reason, older people preferred my school. We call it a school, because in my school there will always be law and order, and those who do not abide, I'll get them out, and I'll ban them from gambling. So that's me. So I come from that environment, and I think, and I'm so grateful that. Gambling helped me to go to school. Otherwise, I would not have been able to go to school. So we achieved few things. Tshwane, we delivered Tshwane. Tshwane was in a mess. What Dr. Moya has done and is doing in a coalition arrangement, it honestly is beyond imagination. I don't know if you guys follow what's happening in Tshwane. Obviously, the media is not interested. They're waiting for her to make a mistake. That's when it'll be the headlines.
Well, we're the media now, so don't
because honestly, the achievement of the team in Tshwane, honestly, it's a template.
And I did speak to her. I spoke to her on the channel.
Yeah, it's a template. Secondly, I don't know if you guys are aware, because obviously it might not be headlines to you. Are you aware, sir, Action SA, since the beginning of this year, without going to a by-election, we've got 39 councillors in 5 municipalities. So we are now represented in 7 municipalities. We were, after 2021, only represented in 2 municipalities, Gauteng and KZN. Today, as I speak to you, we are represented in additional 5. Northwest alone, we've got 22 councillors, without going to a by-election. People ask him, and how did you do it? Ask the IEC. They know we're in charge of those parties. Obviously, as far as IEC is concerned, tactically, they will still be the parties that represented. But when they campaign, even in council, they represent Action SA. Their members are now our members. That's why 2 weeks ago, I launched massive branches. Tomorrow, I'll be in Guyana. We're launching massive branches and so forth. So we delivered what we call the green umbrella. And that green umbrella is growing at a rate that is scary, but positive. That's a second achievement for being not in Parliament. And also, now this VAT matter, you can imagine if I was in Parliament, I would not have really had a time to focus on negotiations, because all these 3 issues, I said to my teams, I'll lead the discussions myself. Yes, from time to time, I'll take some of my team members, but some of the meetings, I'll actually prefer to go on my own, because some of the decisions I had to take, I didn't want to get my team to collapse, because I take some decisions that are uncommon,
So can I ask you on that then, with the 3 streams that you've spoken about? It seems as if in some ways, when you summarize all of that, maybe ironically, you have moved from having gravitated earlier around the DA to closer to the ANC in some ways. ousting the DA in Tshwane, but also now with this VAT question, we saw you at side by side with the ANC in various briefings and together on this VAT thing. How long do you think the GNU can survive? And do you think we might have a GNU, by the way, which we always say on this channel?
There's no unity.
Yeah,
there was never from the beginning. There was never any unity
true.
from the beginning.
The only thing about the GNU is it's not a government, it's not national, and it's not united. But apart from that, but do you think we could have a new iteration of that coalition with you playing an important role there?
Well, it's not our space. We've taken a decision as Action SA to be a constructive opposition. We're on record on that. Even when we started the negotiations with ANC on this particular matter, we made it very clear that for us it's about the removal of VAT. Secondly, to make sure that South Africa's got a budget, because we don't want the people to get into the next plane to go and tell the world that bad things are happening in South Africa. I mean, it was a very serious arrest because the ANC partners were really blackmailing them, holding them to ransom. But unfortunately, they overplayed their hand. They overplayed their hand. They never thought, because of my stance, that I'll put my country first ahead of the ANC. So I'm not closer to the ANC. Everything we're doing as Action SA, we're doing it for the people of this country. We'll defend this country. For that reason, I'm in politics. I'm not in politics for Action SA, not in politics for any other party. I mean, in politics, I left my business. I don't need to work. But I think I honestly and truly believe that I owe it to this country to stand up. This job, it's an expensive job for me. I have to pay to belong to lead this party. You know, I have to rely on my wife every month to give me a salary to be able to. When I'm with friends, I can buy my own bottle of wine. You know, so.
What do you think
the
about
whole thing? It's what you answering your question. It depends on the ANC. If DA for some reason they decide to drop the ANC, and ANC is prepared to enter into a new coalition arrangement, legally binding coalition arrangement, we're happy with other parties to work with the ANC to save our country. But if they are happy with their blue partners, we will remain. We as Action SA, we're happy to remain in the opposition benches.
You were in a lot of these important rooms. I mean, do you think the ANC and the DA are in a sustainable partnership at this moment?
I know it's impossible. I mean, what they're trying to do, honestly, it's weird. Even up to today, just before I left home, sometimes I get naughty, you know. DA right now is actually running a parallel government. Their ministers, they don't represent the Grand Coalition, whatever. Every time the minister delivers something, it's a DA project. It's got nothing to do with other parties. And I'm saying to myself, what on earth is going on? And the more ANC engages them to come to their senses, the worse they get. Even today, going to DA's social media accounts, Home Affairs, drones, it's a DA project. Building of schools is the DA's. It's got nothing. This ANC have messed up. The DA is sorting out the ANC mess. It's not. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the ANC. So I'm not sure how this relationship is going to work. It's a miracle, but unfortunately, it's ANC. Honestly, they require decisive leadership, and it's something that I think my experience dealing with them, it's, I don't know, they are handicapped in some way. Have they always been like this? I don't know, because, I mean, I grew up in difficult times, believing that ANC was our savior. I mean, I know personally, as a black businessman, I spent a fortune in 1994 to get black voters for the ANC. I spent a fortune, because I needed the ANC to win. I'm disappointed with them in the manner in which they've managed our country the last 30 years. However, we should not really give up. I'm not prepared to allow traitors to come and destroy this country because they feel they have a superior logic than us. I take that to personal. Honestly, I really take it personal. Don't really then take ANC failures and ascribe them to the entire black race. I take it personal. ANC is an ANC mistakes, and I lived 34 years of my life under a brutal service system. And we were part of the people who said, let's move forward. When Mandela said, let's move forward, we accepted that in total good faith. But I see that ugly hate is beginning to rise. And I can tell you, HNS is going to stop it. We are not going to allow anyone to accuse the black race for the mistakes of the ANC.
Well, one thing I can be certain of is that there are people with opinions in this audience, because this is the loyal SMWX fam which has followed the story of not only this coalition but South African politics over the last 6 years. So for the first time in SMWX history, we're actually going to pass it over to the audience. After each panel, you're going to be able to ask your questions, and you have an opportunity now to speak to Mr. Mashaba at a key time in South Africa's history. I think I've got the mic over here. So let's take 3 hands, and then we'll see if we have enough time after that for another round. Okay, I see 1, 2, and 3. We'll cover the room. So we'll start over on that side. Please just say who you are, and try to keep the question as brief as you can. Just check sound for the roaming mic. Yeah, sure.
So good evening. My name is Okello Lester. I just wanted to say thank you for the platform, and also to you, Sizwe, and thank you for coming, Mr. Mashaba. I have a question for you. I'm a South African citizen with a mother who is a legal permanent resident, born north of us on this continent. She has regretfully been forced to put up with xenophobia throughout her life. I would like to ask your position, and more broadly your party's position, on whether there's a place for Pan-Africanist politics within the South African political landscape. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Okello. The next person was in the middle over here, Simbali over there.
Thanks, Mbali Nduli. Herman, just a quick question around, so this VAT debacle has happened, everything's happened with the DA and stuff. I'm very interested in what happens next for Action SA. We're going into our local government elections in the next 16 months. And some of this, I think, is important, of course, but can also be a distraction in terms of on the ground. Where are you guys, and what are you planning, or what do you think your chances are going forward? I know that the DA disproportionately, because they clearly have personal beef with people in your party, focuses on you, as do you on them. But what's happening on the Qaanitah Action essay? Because I think that's really going to be the litmus test of where you guys are going to go. The wins that you've had, the victories that you've had right now are great, but is this going to be sustainable, and is it translating on the ground, and what's the strategy there? Because I think that you have voters potentially in the audience, and should we go out and give you your votes in the next election?
Thanks so much, Mbali. And then there was one final one front over here.
Good evening, everyone. Tobi's Makatin is the name. I have two questions to you.
Can you
Mr.
confine it to one, please?
Okay. So what would have happened if you all said no to the fiscal framework? Like, why did you all say yes? Would have been easier for you all to say no, and we wouldn't been in this mess. And then lastly...
No, sorry, sorry, sir. Unfortunately,
it's a short question.
We can't. Okay, I'm giving you 20 seconds.
Okay. Why do you all keep uniting with the ANC? Why can't you unite with the other progressive parties? Why do every political party keep on uniting with the ANC? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think let me start with an easier one. I don't know what mess we're talking about, because we are very at a mess. The DA wanted to extort the ANC bringing issues totally unrelated to VAT. And if we did not come out with this proposal and voted for the fiscal framework, are you aware South Africa right now would have no budget? And VAT was going to be effective 1st of May. Are you aware about that? South Africa would not really have a budget, certainty. Secondly, VAT was going to automatically be effective. In fact, overhead DA legal representatives on Tuesday in court. VAT was going to become effective because DA's proposal was that we must reject the fiscal framework and send the entire budget back to the minister, which a process that was going to take 2-3 months. Now tell me, where would our teachers, our nurses, and service delivery be by now? There'll be confusion. And I can tell you they'll be laughing all the way to America to go and tell them, we told you, these people can't govern. They can't even pass the budget. And then South African poor people were going to be hit by VAT on the 1st of May. So we have vetted that. That's why people didn't believe me when I told them, guys, we are not going to have VAT. I was certain about it. All the political parties that we worked with, we knew this plan, and there was no way that the Minister of Finance would have rejected our proposals, because there were solid proposals in terms of alternative revenue streams. Us as Action SA alone, 110 billion rands. And you know how much they need this current financial year? Of the 15 billion or 16 billion rands, it's 15 and a half, let's say 16 billion rands to make it easy so that you don't get confused with money like former President Jacob Zuma. Let's just round it off to 16 billion. Already, a week or so before Parliament said, the Commissioner of SARS presented his revenue plans to Parliament. By then, he had already announced that he had collected 8.8 billion rands over his estimates. So now, for this financial year alone, you're looking at, 6 billion rands. In a 2 trillion rands budget, honestly, you can't tell me, even if it was 50 billion rands, you can't tell me you can't find 50 billion rands when there's so much wastage in this country. There's so much misuse of public money. So we are allowing criminal elements to run spaza shops in our communities, poor black communities taken out of business, with people who are in this country. We don't know how they came into South Africa in the first place. Secondly, they are not registered. I still have to come across, out of the thousands of them, I still have to come across any one of them that can demonstrate to us that they brought in the 5 million rands investment in this country. I still need to come to anyone who can tell me that they're registered with SARS And that's something we've been, as Action is saying, me particular, even from the days when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, raising this matter with our government that we are destroying our economy, we destroying the Hermans of this world because, you know, I started business from the boot of my car during the days when PW Porter was told I couldn't do it. And I said, I'm going to do it with your past laws and all the brutal, unfair laws. I'm going to do it anyway. You know? So if you think we've got a crisis, we saved you from the crisis.
Can I ask
And
you to
then-
briefly just touch on these final two
Yeah,
so we can
let
take
me
one more round?
deal with this one about Pan-African ideology. I think South Africa at the moment, we've got lots of our own internal challenges, massive. And before I can actually worry about uniting Africa, I believe our priority should really be to unite South Africans because we're such a divided nation. And that must be our focus. And this country, over the last 300 years, was built at the back of migrants coming in this country. And that's something that I'm for it. We must encourage people of the world to come to this country, but they must come here legally, and when they're here, to respect our laws. Don't come and tell me you're coming to run a hairdressing salon in this country. Don't come and tell me you're coming to sell drugs because we want to be high as South Africans. And you tell me it's a rare skill. You're making South Africans happy by making them high. Go and make some other country high. We want our people to really be sober so that they can make the right decisions. So we want people of the world to come here. I mean, this afternoon came across a PA member of parliament asking, it must be a person of one of the portfolios, very pertinent question around foreign nationals in universities. And I'd retweeted to say, PA, thank you for bringing this to attention. We'll attend to it. Where in this guy is raising up to 15% of university staff being involved in our country's economy when our own doctors, our own accountants today are unemployed. So I think we need to really find a balance. We need international people to come here, but they must bring real rare skills that we don't really have.
Right.
There's no way that you can accept. You know, in my family, I've got 2 doctors today who are working on a temporary basis, qualified medical doctors. They can't find a permanent job. But we're bringing doctors from Cuba and other places in the world. So we want people of the world to come in, but they must come here legally, and when they're here, they must respect our laws. And we must only allow people with rare skills that we don't really have in our country. Regarding our plan as Section SA for 2026 or whatever, or 27, what's happening on the ground, just check on our social media platforms. You know where I'll be tomorrow? Tomorrow this time I'll be in Guyana. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock I'll leave home, leave my family. I'm launching 5 branches of a minimum of 100 members, paid up members, not ones manufactured in a kitchen. Because before we launch branches, because my team have been given marching orders that I will only attend branches personally if there's a minimum of 100 members. And I said to them, if I attend your launch and there's less than 100 members in that branch, then I'm going to charge you AV's rate for my car. Because I pay for my, you know.
The pace car rental rate.
I had to, yeah, no. I had to buy a van when my colleagues are buying Porsches and Lamborghinis. I had to buy a van because I travel in difficult terrains and so forth. So I said to any of the provincial chairpersons that guys, anytime, whether it's deep KZN or whatever, I'm happy to come. But you guarantee that at that launch, there'll be a minimum of 100 paid up members. And when I get there, before we start the meeting, I do a verification in our system. System is live. So we are working. We on the ground, the green umbrella. I'm in negotiations right now with lots of small parties with 1, 2, 3 councillors in various municipalities throughout the country.
Great.
But obviously, some of the things, honestly, you can respect that. I don't have to share them with you. I cannot
take
really be
another
naive.
round, Mr. Mashaba, if you don't mind. Sorry to cut in, but I'm going to take two more hands, and then we will. On SMWX, we like to give people regular breaks. I know you've been sitting for a long time. This is a lot to digest. So after that, we're going to have a musical item comfort break and then come back for our panel. So we're going to round this off with 2 questions. You can feel free to continue the debate, come in. You may not deal with it exhaustively, but we'll give you a final few minutes to give your final thoughts, and then we'll move from there. So I see one hand in the middle. What I'm going to try and do is take hands close together for the mics for now. So I see that hand, and we can take it from there. If we can just get the mic to this person over here. Oh yeah, you might as well start, yeah.
Hi, my name is Khotatso, and I'm an entrepreneur. So obviously you came into my radar very early into my life. So I just want to say thank you for everything. For someone like you who's worked so hard to sacrifice when you should be enjoying your money and a life well lived to fight for us. But on the other side, I would also like to just give you a little bit of advice. I think South Africa needs a leader. And I think you behave like a boss. And that's not what's going to unite and build us. So I'd like you to also just take some humility, because we can all learn from each other. Once you believe you can't learn, we're already at a loss. But thank you for everything. We appreciate it, and we continue to support you.
Thanks for that. I ask the nice questions, and the SMWX fam comes in afterwards. So.
It looks like there's. Do
One
we have
more,
another
just-
one, or
just
can
one
I
more,
respond?
yeah. Just one final one.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mazwe. My question is very simple. Does government actually have the underlying mechanism to actually produce policies? Because clearly there's this massive backlog and it isn't efficient. So can we actually see ourselves seeing a government that is actually willing to work overtime? Because it seems that South African government has a mentality of it's 5 o'clock, it's time to go home. But are we actually willing to want to see, as Dr. Sizwe said, VAT come through on the 1st, etc.? There's other policies, of course, but generally speaking, that's my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Mazwe. Mr. Mashaba, you can close out the session.
The question of being a boss, unfortunately, it's in my DNA, and one thing I've been trained, and unfortunately trained by my grandfather who never went to school, is to learn to make decisions. My grandfather used to actually say to me, and spend a lot of time with me in my youth, says, my boy, never stand on a fence, because the longer you stand on, the higher this fence is going to come. And one day you're going to fall and hurt yourself. So rather make a decision quicker. What to do is act in good faith. But make decisions. Don't be afraid to make decisions. And that, I think, for me, is one of the biggest weakness I see in our entire continent and it's happening now in our country, where serious decisions have got to be taken and no one is there to take decisions. And the country is burning. So if it means making decisions is bossy, then I think it's good for the world. I think we can't be a country that's afraid to make decisions. You know, let me just share something quickly with the audience in real terms. You know, when we're having the debate around the removal of Celia Brink in Tshwane, you know, some of my colleagues were reluctant, and I called them for a physical meeting, and half of the room were undecided, wanting to postpone the meeting. And you know what I said to them? I said, guys, you know, you represent South Africans who expect you as leaders of Senate to make decisions. Now, we spend the whole day here, and instead of making a decision, you want to postpone because you've got a luxury of time. But people of Tshwane, people of Amanskral, Mamelodi, Atteridgeville, they don't have. So I said to them, we're going to make the decision, and those who cannot decide, I believe we need to take you to lower structures of our party. I said, you don't belong to Senate. And in fact, I don't even feel you belong to the province. You must go to the branch, and I will make sure that even at the branch, you must not hold any position because you can't decide. This country needs the people who can decide, you know. And so I don't think I will ever regret. Fortunately enough, I listen to people. My survival up to now is because I listen to people. But I make decisions when it is necessary for me to make decisions. I'm not going to hold myself to say I still need to apply my mind. Once I've applied my mind, I'm going to immediately utilize that mind. Regarding policies not working, I mean, this country has got excellent policies, including the ANC Black Economic Empowerment, which I've given up on. But one thing for sure, we need redress. If anyone says we don't need redress in this country, let them be assured Herman Mashaba is for redress. Because our people in Alexander or Mamelodi or Soweto are not in Soweto because they want to be in Soweto or Mamelodi or Alexander. They are there because of pre-1994. We've had, 300 years or 200 years of brutality deprived of opportunities. Yes, ANC messed up instead in terms of really addressing redress and really taking our people out of poverty. So we are going to take our people out of poverty with deliberate policies to address inequality in this country. We are not going to say the market forces are going to sort it out. I'm a capitalist. I'm sure you guys are aware. Wrote a book called Capitalist Crusader. I'm an unapologetic capitalist, but I believe in social justice. There is no way I will be comfortable to drive Maserati when people in Alexander don't have a toilet. I would not personally feel good about it. It's a question of putting the right people out. I was a mayor of the city of Johannesburg. I'm sure you know what happened. Yes, Tshwane, under Dr. Moye, a young professional black woman, surrounding herself with like-minded South Africans. We don't put people into positions for any other thing than quality. And look at what they're doing. We're operating with different political parties. People who are scared to work with the EFF. Look at our relationship with the EFF. People were scared that we work with the ANC. They will continue with their corruption. Today, I honestly believe Tshwane experience has to really be a template for coalition, because South Africa has entered an era of coalition, and it is possible it can be done. I did it when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. And here is it, a black woman I'm proud of in Tshwane, who's actually even doing a better job than I could. In fact, right now, my wife is running my business is better than I could. She's making more money than I could make it myself.
Mr. Mashaba, thank you. Thank you so much for honoring this platform. You've been on here before, but when we came to you and we said we want to have a live event, we want to have someone that's at the center of shaking South African politics, you heeded the call, and you're the first ever guest on an SMWX live event. So thank you for taking time at a time when you must be being pulled by all kinds of people, from Uncle Cyril to Auntie Helen.
With the wife who just got discharged from hospital today. She was in hospital last Saturday, Sunday. She was in ICU. Just got discharged today.
Thank goodness.
And look at where I am. And tomorrow I'm leaving.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tomorrow I'm over to Venda, Guyana, and I care about her and I love her so much. And she made me the man I am today.
Lovely. Well, we thank you. We thank you for coming. Give it up for Herman Mashaba, everyone. Thank you so much. So, can we get an ayeye? Can we get a spread the fire? Great. So, we're going to ask one of our ushers to take Mr. Mashaba to a prominent seat at the front. We're going to have some background music for a while our musical item sets up. And then we're going to have one song to cleanse our palates, take a comfort break after that, and then we'll be back with our blockbuster panel featuring QaanitahHunter, Mighti Jamie, and Tessa Dooms. Thank you.
Hello? 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 My name is Okolom. Before I lose everything, can I sing for you guys? Yes, please take videos. I want to be famous. It's very important. Oh no, they will change this. I know for sure. I asked them to. Thank you so much. I like it. Like I said, I am Okolom, and I'm with my friend Paso. Hello. We are all the way from the United States of Duduza. It's a place very far from here. Ma'am, how are you doing? I had the intro. Say yes. I'm calling the names for free education, Fees must fall. Fees must fall. I'm calling the names for a financially liberated South Africa. That must fall. That must fall. I'm calling the names for striving youth. Data must fall. Data must fall. Okay, Sizwe asked me to do a sing along with you guys, right? Are you ready? Are you ready? I call people by their names. I do it. Okay. So, call and response. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Mr. Herman. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go. Okay, let's do it. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. Aye, yeah. One last thing. So I'm gonna do something fancy, and then you play around with aye. I trust you. Let's do it. Let's go. Yes. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. Ah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Come on, my choir. Come on, my choir. Last one. We're closing the song now. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. My name is Okolom Nkularamnandi. Fees must fall. And now I'm going to introduce my friend Basso. He's going to play a song called Basso.
Hello. My name is Paso. I'm all the way from Pasoland. I studied Pasology and I pacify people. And I hope you want to be pacified. All right. So when I say from the P to the A to the S to the O, Basso. Basso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Tlhogoso. Let's try it. From the P to the A to the S to the O, Basso. Basso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Tlhogoso. Let's try it. From the P to the A to the S to the O. Baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Tlhogoso. From the P to the A to the S to the O, baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso, tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso, tlhogoso. I can't hear you guys. From the P to the A to the S to the O, baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso, tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Okay. Nakusepeka ju, nakusemamela ju. Ngibheke kahle angisijuke, angisujo mavela. Angizanga lana ngithi ngizochaza wena. Ngize lana ngoba ngiyazi ngizokhanda isimeka. Ayispani kimi lento ekuthiwa ikorobela. That's why mangibamba i-microphone. Kiyathuleka. My future is so bright. Mangena maza zagcimeza. Maloku ngithatha ithombe izoshale ukhemera. Anye ngumrapper ongaphathi pen nephepha. Ngihlala phansi ngishaya i-track sasa iya-trenda. Ngishonga amalimi baba isixhosa mna ndiyasithetha. Buzo ntikanga nabo bazokuxelela. I'm just putting it out there. It's not like ngiyabreka. Njengomandela ngishayitwe ngithanda that ama-results akhetha ungilandela. Wena hlala phansi unetheze kumamela upaso. Umamela upaso say from the P to the A to the S to the O, baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. From the P to the A to the S to the O, baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Flop, angna stress, angna jive. Vele ngishaya ingoma from ngo-12 till ngo-5. Ama-competitor wamaphila ngama-pipe. Laba etshela ukuthi ngiceda khona vele ngicale phansi. Hayi, sengibuye eSpain nase-France. Bayayivuma belungu, but it's nice. But it's beautiful, unique, very classic. Barrick original, Makoya, not a plastic. They're gonna post it and advertise it. They're gonna take it to the media, then the public. Ngati mina, hey, belungu danki. Angasho ngishona ngedolo, ngongu mdali. P to the A, to the S, to the O, baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. From the P to the A to the S to the O, baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. But in life, ifana nama-dice. Sometimes you poop, sometimes you crap. Mina ngithi life, ifana ne-pie. Angeke udle emotweni ube-expect ukungachithi. Lokho enye ngishoyo yazi ivar ungaphiki. Soke wayizanga a couple of times eTexidi. I-life ifana nesandla. Yazibuza ukuthi kanjani. Ekufike i-life ifana ne-quantum. Ekasi iyaflya everywhere iyatotoba. Winter mawavalila ngawenu yakwathe mara sama mawavalila ngawenu yajabula ngoba uyaphola. Ngoba uyaphola. Ekuse i-life ifana nekota. Where do fagi sauce sora wifagi uzosutha. Ekuse i-life ifana nesandla. Udla ngaso manje etoilet uphinde usule. Hayi asikho lapha sikho lapha sikho lapha. From the P to the A to the S to the O, baso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. Kaofela reza tlhogoso. My name is Paso. I'm all the way from Basoland. I studied Basology and I Pasify people. Paso, Lama Paso on all social media handles. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in the theater at 5 to 7 for the next session. 5 to 7, we'll be back in the theater. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have another performance in a minute. Can we just all make sure that we're seated in the venue? We'll have the last performance and the second session will be starting shortly.
Hello again. Hi. Hello. Yes, we are back. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Okolom, and I'm with my friend Paso, and the request still stands. Please take videos. I truly and honestly want to be famous. Yeah, I've been up since 3 a.m., but this is an event that I can't miss. And the footage taken here will go to high places. Sizwe, I'm not seeing your phone, my brother. Paso's mic is not on.
And the guitar.
Feels like a Grammy moment. The light. I know it's working with my skin. Okay, let's get the performance going. Let's do this. Courage to believe is all you need. The courage to believe is all you need. The vision was given to you. It is your responsibility to make it come true. God will never give you a challenge that is above your strength. Now stop asking the people you call your friends. God will never give you a challenge that is above your strength. Now stop asking the people you call your friends. Oh, you are valid. The dream is valid. And your mind is valid. Oh, you are valid. The dream is valid. And your mind is valid. The courage to believe is all you need. The courage to believe is all you need. Is all you need. The courage to believe is all you need. The courage to believe is all you need. sebakutshelile iphupho lakho angeke lifezeke sebakutshelile iphupho lakho angeke lifezeke ngithi banamanga come on ngithi banamanga ulphiwe nguNkulunkulu wena banamanga 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 ay banamanga banamanga bona banamanga banamanga bona banamanga banamanga bona banamanga ay banamanga bona banamanga ay banamanga 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 the only thing you need the only thing you need can you hear me the only thing you need the only thing you need is the courage the courage to believe banamanga 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 bona banamanga giti banamanga bona banamanga banamanga bona banamanga yeah banamanga bona banamanga banamanga bona I was hoping by this time you're doing the banamanga 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 let's go that's right banamanga banamanga advocate banamanga 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 bana ay banamanga 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 wait I promised Mr. Mashaba this moment as well come on Mr. Mashaba banamanga bana ho banamanga 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 the only thing you need the only thing you need is the courage the courage to believe my name is Okolong and I assure you Nkulagamna got many problems today but Nkulagamna
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome onto stage host and founder of SMWX, Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh.
Just want to make sure that everyone is capable of saying, ah, yeah. How come I didn't get to do a bana manga bana la? So we are now going to have our second panel, and I'm going to ask the panelists to come up at the end when I've invited all three of them. As Oratile has mentioned, unfortunately, Ugogo Aubrey Machikri is unwell and was unable to make it tonight. He has sent me a voice note welcoming you all, saying how much he treasures and loves the SMWX family, and he's obviously an important voice in this community. So can we just give him a round of applause, because I know he's watching this live stream. Thokoza Koko. But tonight, we have actually raised the stakes, I'm afraid to say, because we've got 3 incisive and insightful minds. Sumaya always teases me because apparently at the beginning of every episode I say, I'm extremely excited to welcome. But tonight, I can assure you, not only am I extremely excited, I'm deeply honored to welcome 3 people who, firstly, continuing the theme, have been friends of this podcast, friends of this show, long before it was cool to be on SMWX. They came on and helped me build this platform. I'll start with QaanitahHunter, brilliant journalist, political journalist, someone who is both able to analyze politics but also has a deep knowledge of journalism on the ground and political journalism. Qaanitah will bring us her insights on all things GNU and VAT, and she has been on SMWX 2 or 3 times, I believe. And we're really grateful to her for joining us tonight. Round of applause. We have someone whose subscriber count is growing at a very alarming rate for us at SMWX, Mighti Jamie. And first we were like, this is going great. Yeah, and then now like 55,000 subscribers already. Now this is getting, can you please slow down, sir? Because there's only one podcast that can have like 200,000 subscribers. Mighti Jamie, again, I've lost count of the number of times he's been on SMWX. He started his own platform as we build this digital media ecosystem. Someone with an LLB, also contributing his insights to South African politics. So we really thank him for being here. Round of applause for him. And then, final friend of the show, also graduated to higher media heights, now broadcasting on Power FM. I like to say, you know, when you come on SMWX, it's natural that you then go on to these other things. But Tessa Dooms has been doing this amazing work for longer than it bears repeating. Author, friend of the show, someone who not only has shared her insights as a guest, but also as an analyst, and is also doing brilliant work in activism and media. So please, Tessa Dooms, QaanitahHunter, and Mighti Jamie, let's explore this situation. By the way, as we set up our mics, please know that this needs to be trending on social media. So you have full license to tweet, look at your phone, but the only reason you can be looking at your phone is that you're sharing this on social media. So please, let's make sure #SMWX event trends. You'll see their pictures being taken of all of you in the audience, and we're sharing them. And all of you are looking very serious and insightful, and like you know about South African politics. Forward? Yeah, just with the light. Yeah. Great. Okay, so we're going to kick off, and I'd like to again welcome you all here. Tessa, let me start with you. What do we make of all of this VAT chaos?
Wow, you want to start with the VAT chaos?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So this morning when I started my Power Breakfast show from 6 to 9 on Power FM on 98.7.
Okay, we'll allow it.
So this morning when I started my show, after a week of talking to all sorts of politicians and everybody, you know, wanting to get in their slice of who got the right shots in, who did the right things at the right time from the political front, I said that for me, this is a victory for South Africans in the voters actually caused all of this, right? So in the 2024 election, voters need to realize that what you did is force politicians to work together in an unprecedented way. And I think that is my favorite thing about this outcome, right? In 2018, we had a VAT hike. We almost forget that we had a VAT hike in 2018
Because like every other budget that has passed under a majority ANC government, it came from Luthuli House, it went into cabinet, and it got passed through Parliament without us even knowing what the debates were. We didn't know which parties were for or against. There was no, and the budget has had this problem all the way through. So I'm famous for always saying that I don't take SONA seriously. It's ceremonial, it's about pomp and ceremony. Nobody votes on SONA. But the budget is this big deal that we've never, as South Africans, really gotten a full look at. The media industry is not...
Please just turn the music down in the monitors here, guys. Yeah.
The media space has not covered the budget in the kind of detail that we've seen. That's why most journalists don't know what questions to ask about the budget right now, don't know how this process is supposed to unfold. And I think this is such a big victory because the reason we are here, and we can say, well, the DA was extorting, grandstanding, or whatever it is that they were doing. But they saw the opportunity that said, the ANC can't just pass this on their own terms anymore. And that was caused because the voters said, the ANC, nobody can have a full-out majority, and everybody's going to have to do the work. The second big gift that we've given ourselves is we are forcing parliamentarians to work. You know, my friend Lukhona Mnguni is here. There's nobody who has trolled parliamentarians more than Lukhona Mnguni has. He knows their names, their numbers, he knows their email addresses. And there was 1 week when we were doing electoral reform work, and Parliament was about to pass a law that was going to change the way we voted. And we were sending them videos to explain the law that they were about to vote for the next day. Do you know how many parliamentarians called us back and said, please explain? The next day. And that's because Parliament has not been a place and a real site of struggle until right now. And so us forcing parliamentarians to actually do their jobs, well done, South Africa.
Absolutely.
Well, I think to not recap what Tessa has covered, but by the way, yesterday I was at Exclusive Books and somebody told me they just finished reading Colored. And I thought, wow, Tessa is making an impact. It was a teenage boy, 16.
Oh, that's so cool.
So they were asking me for book recommendations and they pointed yours out and said, no, I finished that one. Or I'm about to finish that. So I thought you should want to hear that. So I think the VAT moment for me has brought a red line under the contradiction of the finance minister's discourse and his fiscal strategy, because they do this trick of equivocation, which I think is important to underscore. And I think people have become aware as they've come to understand the budget a little bit more. And for me, it's still part of the conversation we need to have and focus on, because the trick is this. They'll say, we are doing this to grow the economy. Fiscal consolidation to grow the economy. We're going to cut over here, we're going to cut over there, we're going to cut over here in the name of growing the economy. And this type of Thatcherite economics, Reagan economics, has already been disproven as a solution for growth. So something that has been intriguing to observe is that particular discourse to say, no, we need to do this to cut, we need to fiscally consolidate to grow the economy. But it's not a recipe for growth. Because if you say you're going to cut budgets for the classroom, you're going to cut budgets for hospitals, you're going to cut budgets left, right, and center, right? I keep making that joke about fiasco, TKZ fiasco on the other channel. But that's literally what you produce. You produce a low growth environment while claiming at the whole time that you are doing it in the name of growth, right? Advocate Mpofu likes to use these metaphors, right? But it's like someone robbing you, right, in the middle of a kasi or at the taxi rank in the name of you prospering. But no, I'm taking this phone so that you can have assets. How am I going to have assets at the same time that you're taking the one asset that I'll be paying Vodacom for the next 2 years for? That's exactly what the finance minister has been doing. And one of my biggest pet peeves with the media is that they've not really pushed back on that type of a narrative and to actually debate the fiscal framework in and of itself and the fiscal strategy to say, hey, why are you actually claiming that all of these things will produce growth? And I saw in Business Live, there was this article where they were saying that Treasury has superior logic. And because they have superior logic or some argument to that effect, we shouldn't ask questions or ask them. But Thatcher has been disproven as being the right fiscal approach for a economy that is growing and has the same challenges that South Africa has. Because even now in the UK, that whole privatization agenda and this, the other contradiction is that they call it, they'll say things like Vulindlela, Operation Vulindlela, or opening the way for privatization. But Thatcher tried that, and they've got sewage right now in Thames, right? It's called Thames Water, that company that provides water in London, some of the dirtiest water in the world. And now you keep hearing them talking about the privatization of water, water ABC, water XYZ. And all of those things, I think, have come to a light. That contradiction, the other contradiction that is worth noting or commenting on is that they are talking about how we need to reduce the debt while taking on debt for IPPs. Did you notice that? Few weeks ago, Ursula von der Leyen came here. She was standing next to President Cyril Ramaphosa, photo opportunity, and they gave it some kind of a name. I can't remember what they called it, but it was a big loan that we're taking from Europe in euros, and it's rated in forex. But they're saying at the same time the debt repayment is going up. We need to do all of these budget things like raise the VAT in order to pay debt. But you just took about 200 billion worth of debt from the EU for IPPs, which are mostly going to benefit Motsepe and friends. So how is that something that is beneficial to South Africa at this moment? And I think the freezing of this particular VAT and all of the concessions that have been made have been critical for everyone to be aware of all of the approaches, the thoughts that are coming from the finance minister.
Let me bring in Qaanitah. And indeed, what I enjoy about your journalism is how easily you take us behind the scenes of what's going on. How do you interpret all that's gone on in the last, shall we just say 3 days? Because if we extend it longer than that,
we'll sit here forever.
Exactly.
Sizwe, just to say thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that Gogo Aubrey recovers. This was his seat, and I'm really grateful to be here, and I hope he does well soon. So I was one of those people that had a really fun 2 months. I was chilled, and I'll tell you why. I don't think we went through a crisis. Yeah. Coalition governments are formed for 2 reasons: to elect a president and to pass a budget. There's no other reason why people must be in coalition. You get rewarded for those 2 big actions with ministerial positions, right?
Sure.
But they needed to elect a president because they couldn't do it themselves, so they got them, and they needed to pass a budget. So as a party, they decided in their own wisdom, and we can talk another day about having a multi-party coalition versus having a grand coalition. President Cyril Ramaphosa feels very vindicated today to say, you see why we needed to have others, because we didn't want to be held by the throat by the DA, right? So we can debate that. But essentially, when you walk into a agreement like this, you know what the price is. So you are marrying a cheating polygamist. You know it, right? You asked him to make it exclusive.
I don't know who's the marrying, who's the... everyone is a... Yeah.
You asked him to make it exclusive. He said no. Right? Then what you do is you draw a line in the sand and you say, if you cross this line at Bella, we're walking. Nah? Then you don't walk. Then you draw another line in the sand and you say, if you cross the line at expropriation, we're walking. Then you don't walk. Then you say, no. At VAT, we draw the line in the sand, else we're walking. But what you are doing is you are negotiating for a bigger house in Houghton. Nah? So, you don't want to go. You are screaming, you're exposing him at every family event. Right? You're calling him a cheating, but you know he was a cheater. You knew it.
Yeah.
You decided to marry him. He never promised you he's not going to cheat.
In fact, there are 10 partners.
Right. But then, you made it your red line. You made that VAT increase your red line. No one made it for you. Right? And then you quietly say, but if you jiggy on this and that, we'll forget about that. That is not politics of coalition. That's not debate, because healthy coalition politics is about getting negotiations within the power you have, right? You made it the red line. You ought to have walked away, because you could not do the second of the two things you were rewarded by. You got 13 executive positions. You had to do two things. You had to vote a president, you have to pass a budget. You don't want to pass a budget? Sure, don't pass the budget. But don't demand a big house. Right? And so the principle of whether you for VAT or not VAT, that's your hill to die on. As a nation, we'll clap for you or we won't, right? But when it is presented in this way, right, where there's an NEC meeting, you send a letter to the president and you say, right, the environment is ripe, let's privatize, let's da-da-da. For what? That's not how coalition... you're asking for something that needs to be tested in the constitution. Can the president, after assenting to a bill of parliament, just decide because you want to pass a budget I don't know if the Constitutional Court will allow it, right? Yeah. So let's take emotion out of the room. The ANC did what a cheater does, and they made a stupid policy decision. They said, we're going to increase VAT, right? So it's less about them. We know them, right? It's about you and how you're reacting, right? And so the question now comes that the passing of the budget, they can call it extortion. I don't want to fall into that theatrics, but to say it's not about the budget because you were rewarded, you were given a place in that GNU for a particular outcome. Now, I'll wrap up very quickly, Sizwe. In the beginning of the year, when there was drama around, I think could have been expropriation or maybe a scandal after that, where you get these calls from, people who sit in these investor rooms and everyone wants to know, is the GNU going to fall apart? I said at the time, and I say it now, the incentive to be in the GNU is more than the incentive to be out. And I'll tell you why. Because opposition politics has not worked, because the election result shows the top four parties reduced their share, or the DA stagnated. So saying the ANC is bad doesn't win you votes. So all you have to do is you have to go and audition there in government, right? So you have to go there and you have to act like you're busy and you're showing. And so it's an audition to be part of. And the person who understands that is one Gayton McKenzie, right? It's an audition here. I'm not here. And that he humbles himself. He humbles himself in front of the president because he knows that I need this to build my voter base come the next election. Sorry, I'm just going a bit longer, but I'll wrap up now. So the DA has no incentive to leave. It's bad politics. You got to show in to show the country what you're able to do. 2026 is next year. What do you have that hasn't worked before? The only thing you have is this, and that's why they've taken it with such vigor to ask the Minister of Home Affairs. He understands it, right? Now, the question is this. The argument that you cannot support a budget but you can remain in government is the most absurd argument you could ever have. There is no government without a budget. You wanted to break the government. So now there's no government. So go leave the government, right? On the ANC side, right, 2 weeks ago I wrote a column where I said, this VAT thing's not going to happen. I'll tell you why. The confidence that I had was not based on, I don't know what was happening with Mr. Mashaba and the negotiations. But I understood two things. One, it was never going to be the hill that they died on, right? It's too risky. And secondly, you still need, you can't edge yourself into a corner where you are at the mercy of other political parties. Right. What they avoided that time. So essentially, the ANC did what it did, what it thought was the best thing to do. But the ANC for whatever reason it may be, is not willing to kick the DA out.
Let me see how you react to that, Tessa, because Qaanitah has taken us into the way that VAT interfaces with the deeper coalition dynamics themselves. And of course, this VAT thing is symptomatic of a deeper coalition crisis has become the norm. So I don't even know whether to say crisis anymore. But we've had this coalition announce itself, and then we've had, weeks where there's this question of will it survive, will it not, and it clutches its way back to survival, and then there's another crisis. Where do you think we are in this coalition story right now?
So if you didn't catch the 10 a.m. Press conference yesterday morning, welcome to your new coalition. It is a coalition when it works. When it actually gets things done, when it actually sets agendas, sets priorities, and actually gets things done. And the thing that you and I said on SMWX right at the beginning of this is we are waiting for this government of national unity to not just be a government in name or united in name, but to give us a program of action. The first problem, and it wasn't a problem of their making, was we have a constitutional problem where we only have 14 days to form a government. We have to get rid of that problem. You cannot be a multi-party constitution for 30 years. But it was an ANC person who arrogantly thought they would never be in the position to have to negotiate a government that made it 14 days. We have to reverse that. And there's a bigger electoral reform conversation that goes along with that. But now you're in that situation. And instead of saying, okay, we're going to find a minimum reason why we're going to come together, they come up with a statement of intent that is waffly, that is flowery, and that is really written to conceal what the DA really wanted, which was to nail the ANC into a corner and give itself veto power.
Yes.
That's the reason why Helen Zille will not tell you about any other clause except the clause about sufficient consensus. Because that's what it was about for them. They want to be the number one wife. They want to be the one that matters only. And what that tells you about the DA is that they didn't care about what the real work was. They cared about their power. But the same is true for the ANC. Because the ANC didn't push back and say, actually, what are the real issues that we need to deal with here? They went with this laundry list of things, and everybody was negotiating for power. The second thing is that now that you have a coalition formed, why have they not sat down in a room together and actually come up with a minimum program of action?
10 months in.
It takes other governments around the world 6 months to negotiate a minimum program of action before they even say who's going to be minister of what. In the last 10 months, other than grandstand, what have they actually done to show us that there's a plan of action here?
We did it the other way around. We gave everyone positions, and then we're like, oh, well, we don't need a program now.
And then this budget thing, the most disappointing thing is, a budget is not created the month before SONA or after SONA. The budget precedes SONA. SONA doesn't inform the budget. The budget process started in June last year. They have had all the time in the world to sit down and actually bust out a budget that they all agreed on by the 19th of February. I do not believe that government of national unity exists. I can't imagine what a cabinet meeting is like because I don't believe they talk to each other.
Can I jump in here? That actually the cabinet meetings are like really, really cordial, and that John Steenhuisen is actually quite amenable in those meetings, if you believe some of those ministers, right? And that the ministers actually vibe with ANC ministers vibing with Leon Schreiber and actually help Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh when she has problems with MECs in other provinces. I wish I was joking, right? So it's actually not as adversarial as you think, which for me is indicative that you just want it in.
Yeah.
You never thought beyond it. right? And so that's why your fights are public and not actually like in the room.
Yeah.
Let me bring in Mighti here just to react to some of the things that have been said, because we went VAT. We heard from Mr. Mashaba a lot of that context, and now we're deep into GNU territory. GNU. And what, where do you think this is going based on what you've heard here now?
Well, I think there's going to be a remix, a 2.0 of this coalition at some point. The DA, I think, has a strategy to have an exit from the coalition after the elective conference of the ANC. So whoever wins, whether it's Mbalula, Mashatile, whoever, Panyaza, they just want to say, no, this guy, we don't trust this guy, we're out of here, and then the election begins for them. So that's why they're trying to hold on until the elective conference. But as things are playing out, obviously the ANC is very savvy. They spend a lot of time focused on these kind of scenario plans, etc. The biggest misconception we sometimes have of the ANC or cadres or whatever the case may be is that they're incompetent, because we measure their performance based on what we experience in the clinic, in the police station, in the school. But if you look at the way these guys are living, they're living lavish lives. Everything is perfect in their houses. They have all of the megabytes for downloads and uploads, right? They have Jojo tanks and all manner of solar installations. As soon as Tesla makes a power wall, there's a cadre who has it. So what I'm trying to say is that they spend all of their brain capacity either finding ways to creatively skim from the state and also finding ways to drain the state, but also to live these lavish lives. But the other brain power that they spend their time on is the scheming, the wheeling and the dealing to try to figure out how do we stay in power and how do we navigate these things, which is why I think Mr. Mashaba negotiated very aggressively and was able to get himself in a position where his party could then have this kingmaker role. But I also think that they were looking for somebody that they could work with, and they were planning around what can they do to keep that 201 votes within the National Assembly. So what I'm trying to say is, as things look right now, while the DA is trying to get out after elective conference of the ANC, because that can be the biggest dramatic moment for them, they go to big business and they say, look at Mashatile, Panyaza, Mbalula, whoever it is, can you work with this guy? Give us the 100 million you gave us last time. We'll get the 30%. Remember our poll from the institute that Helen Zille went to after she left the DA and then went back to the DA. Anyway, it's a real poll. We're getting 30+%, whatever the case may be. So that's their scenario. But it seems to me clear right now that the ANC is already preparing for 2.0. Yesterday, Mdumiseni Ntuli was very... Clement Manyatela moved ahead in the interview. I don't know if you guys picked it up, but Mdumiseni was saying we need to hear from the DA why they are behaving like this. We're going to meet them tomorrow, etc. The statement which eventually came out under Fikile Mbalula's name was very conciliatory. We want unity, etc., etc. But that tone there from Mdumiseni Ntuli yesterday, to me, indicated that the ANC is now alive to the fact that they cannot actually stay with the DA until elective conference. They need to make a GNU 2.0. So I think it may not happen now. Mr. Mashaba may not want to be part of that particular formulation, but I do think that it's in the making now. And ANC likes to foreshadow what they want to do so that they can say, why are you panicking? We've been speaking about this for months. If you've noticed anything that is done by the ANC, it's always how, but we've been speaking about Expropriation Act for 20 years. We've been speaking about NHI. NHI is not new. Expropriation Act is not new. Everything is like, this is old. Why are you panicking? Why are you reacting like this? So that's exactly what's going to happen with the GNU, because they're going to say at some point when the two-step process seems to be now that they want to include more people, make the door, the access point easier so that anybody can say, I'm in GNU, I signed, I don't want to be in cabinet or whatever. Then one day, all of a sudden, there's going to be a cabinet announcement, a reshuffle, and some names may end up in the cabinet. So I think it's coming, it's inevitable, but I want to make this final contribution because I'm thinking about the contributions that have been made. There's no conviction, which is why there are no fights in the cabinet. Right? The person who has conviction on the vision is Helen Zille, but she's not always in the room. And even Tony Leon in his new book was talking about when the negotiations were happening, they got an SMS saying that Helen wants to take charge and take leadership. And he was very unhappy with that. So she's the brain trust right now. And she's not in the room. So you're not going to see the friction that you would typically see in the room. But I think that's why you're not seeing the emotion. People are enjoying the SUVs, they're enjoying the VIP status, and it is nice. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't enjoy it either. So that's I don't know. I'll have to see when I get it.
Making a pitch for a Pace car rental car now.
Pace, hook me up.
Only no.
So I think that's why you're not seeing those particular fights, right? But I do think that there's no conviction, but the point around there not being a medium-term plan is an important point, because what it means for ordinary South Africans, for everybody on the ground, is that this is political theater at its finest, but it's not going to change the condition in a classroom. It's not going to change the condition in a police station. It's not going to change the position in a clinic, because there's no plan, there's no ideology, there's no vision, there's no conviction, and it's going to be status quo minors, because all of the things that we're used to, which is inefficiencies and failures and performances. So the minister will say, I've removed pit toilets, but those pit toilets were being removed anyway, and they're just updated to what they call VIPs, which are ventilated pit toilets. So you move from one version of pit toilet to another version of pit toilet. The minister does a press conference, says, I've removed pit toilets, when 97% of the schools in the Eastern Capes don't have a library. Grade 4s can't read. We've got 33% as the median mark in mathematics, right? So those are the realities, but the minister can tick the boxes. So this GNU chat, in the back of our minds, we have to think, what does it actually mean for the police station, the clinic, and the hospitals and Home Affairs?
Let me bring you in again, Qaanitah, because you have been a very close observer of the Ramaphosa presidency. And we've discussed the VAT situation, how it relates to the broader coalition dynamics. What do you think what has been said here reflects on the Ramaphosa presidency, and where are we in this presidency right now?
So, President Ramaphosa, which you've seen it yesterday as well with the Zelensky visit, loves the idea of being someone that can have convening power, bring people into a room together. He's really good at it. It's possibly one of his greatest strengths. If I was him, I would have made a bid for UN Secretary General versus a president of a country. I'll tell you why. Because as a president, it's inconsequential if you can bring people into a room. You have to make a decision.
The room has to act.
The room has to act. And so what you're seeing, the president of the GNU versus the president of the ANC post-Nazareth 1 is the same president, which is an indecisive president. Why do you need, how many months was it to nominate people for a deputy chief justice? That's a small thing, you know? And I mean, we can list the indecision, right? And so in a situation like this, the fruit of his attitude and his leadership comes in the sense that, look, we had to have a multi-party government because, see, we're not being held ransom by one party, right, in a grand coalition. So I understand that, but when it comes to leadership, it's more of the same, right? And so for me, what we're seeing here is systemic of two things. One, we believe that the ANC has a monopoly on factional politics, but their factionalism only mattered because they only had power. The DA, my dear, they now know what factionalism is. There's going to be slate politics in the DA. Why? Because there's power on the table. And so these movements, this jiggy that you hear from cabinet ministers, from those outside, from some advisors sitting in other polling institutions, we won't name them. But the thing is, power is at stake now. And once you have it, it's hard to let go. And so, as consequential as an ANC elective conference, a DA elective conference is going to matter in this GNU, right?
26, I think.
And the second thing is, this is all systemic of what Tessa spoke about, a failed and flawed system. You have a clearinghouse mechanism that's supposed to resolve disputes by a deputy president who doesn't command that level of respect among his peers, but also who is, we almost know where he stands on some of the GNU partners, right? What you need in a situation like this is, which is why in Germany or in Europe, in some coalition agreements, that they take weeks on only fighting and negotiating about how to conflict resolution, because that process will determine how you act in a GNU. It's not up for today. It can't be murky that the ANC says, "Oh, we won't divorce you, you leave," and then the DA says, "We won't divorce you, you leave, you chuck us out." You know, that drama, because there would be a when Tessa and Lukhona and others screamed on the top of their voices about electoral reform, we were laughing, we were playing with our toes. You don't understand how dangerous of a system we have, and what it means to not have effective coalition to govern this, effective legislation to govern coalition politics. It is bad in Maluti Apofong, it's bad in Tshwane, it's bad in the national government.
The Ramaphosa presidency.
You know, guys, we've had an array of presidents who have shown us their best and their worst. Even Nelson Mandela gave us glimpses of both, if you were paying attention. I find him to be one of the most dangerous presidents we have. And his danger is in his inaction and in his quiet demeanor. Somebody was saying today, the president plays cupcake really well. And he likes playing cupcake, right? Because being amenable and being likable and all of that keeps him out of the firing line of many South Africans. Absolutely. But at the same time, we have become the frog in the pot. And since 2018, the pot has slowly been boiling. So those indicators that Jamie's been listing, they've gotten worse and worse and worse. But because it's not a Zuma presidency, where you feel like the president's coming at things with a sledgehammer, there's nobody shouting because there's no ruckus. There's no sledgehammer. It's this quiet boiling over of crisis after crisis after crisis. And we are being lulled into a sense that there's nothing that can be done. My sense about the Ramaphosa presidency is that he's biding his time, that he wants to get out with his hands clean, that he's not making decisions so he doesn't have to make a bad decision, and that his legacy is not tarnished. I think he cares more about how history remembers him than actually what he does. And I worry about that. It really does keep me up at night. For me, the other part of this goes to this electoral reform question. Because when it comes to how we engage with our politicians, we are engaging on the basis that they will allow us to. So we only go as far as they will allow us to. The politicians, the parties, etc. Because we don't have any power to do anything about them. So whether they do something or whether they do nothing, we are spectators on the sidelines of our own politics. The way you elect is the way you govern, and it's the way you hold accountable. If we continue to elect in the way that we do, that hands over all of our power of accountability to the party bosses who are also doubling up as the people who are in government, we're going to have a problem. We are one of the few countries in the world where our political logic is that there are no two centers of power. Donald Trump is not the head of the Republican Party. There is an actual head of the Republican Party, and there's the candidate for the Republican nomination. We say those two must be the same. But the problem is, then you are now the only person who can hold you accountable. That's the reason we only have recalls of presidents once the president is no longer the party leader. We have no accountability because we've got a system that keeps us out and doubles and triples their power. And we can't change it because we're asking the turkeys to vote for Christmas.
So get your questions ready. I'm going to come to Mighty on the same question of where we are in this presidency, and then we'll open it up to the audience. Your thoughts on where we are with President Ramaphosa?
So I actually take a slightly different view on President Ramaphosa. I think that he's very active on the priorities that he has. So if you think about youth employment, youth summit, all of those things, the outcomes have been negligible at best and definitely underwhelming for the extent of the problem, right? Unemployment between 15 and 24 is at 70%, according to the expanded definition, right? At 25 to 34, it's at 50%. So those numbers are not great, and it's a 60% average because there's more or less 1 million per year, 16, 18, etc. So 60% is something that is never going to achieve the growth that you want to achieve. And there's been no aggressive implementation of any changes to the classroom, even with ChatGPT and all of these technological advancements that we're seeing. No real appetite, ambition, or urgency. However, if you think about every state of the nation, if you've watched them or read the speeches, the transcripts, whatever, there's always a discussion about infrastructure and infrastructure spending. That money always goes out. And you know, I was reading recently Dead Aid by Dambisa Moyo, rereading it for the book club that we have. And one of the things she says in passing is one of the easiest ways to siphon money out of a developmental state is through infrastructure spending, because the results are so down the road that people begin to pick up who the winners and losers are, who the blessers become, like 10 years after the fact. And that person is already established, and then you're chasing them down, and then people are dying in courts, etc., etc. You'll find out later who the winners are. But that infrastructure spend, and even now there was that discussion in the questions to the president where the DA was asking, but isn't this money going to go to funny places? You know, the PIC money that is now going to be spent on, and the pensions that are going to be spent on the infrastructure spending. What is it, 1 trillion over the next X amount of years? Is that money going to go where it's supposed to go for roads, etc.? So there's action there. He loves big infrastructure projects. He loves this network infrastructure stuff because he's a big man and he wants to be involved in big business and big deals. But part of my concern is that in aggressively pursuing that, there's not really been a protection from the cancer of corruption in the implementation of that. The other place where you've seen a lot of activity, you know, there's this initial REIPP, Renewable Energy Independent Producer Plan, whatever the act is called. That was accelerated through Parliament. They wrote laws, and they wrote laws that enabled certain people to be able. So when they take that loan, by the way, from Europe or America for the Just Energy Transition Plan, that loan is taken by the government, right? That money is then given to whoever shows up and says, I want to build renewable energy where to save the environment. All of these billionaires who are mining all across Africa and being sued in some countries for environmental destruction, they all care about the environment, right? And then they get this money. And if you've looked at most of the sonars, you will hear report backs, bid window 5. Bid window. Have you seen? Sometimes it's the boring part of the speech. You'll say, now we've done bid window 5. Bid window 5 has been approved. These guys now have IPPs are moving, etc., etc. There has been consistent action in delivery of IPPs and IPP money, even though 80% of the energy that is generated by Eskom is still coming from coal, right? And I think another 10% is coming from the open combustion. A very small amount is coming from the IPP space. And I love the environment, love animals. Don't get the wrong message from me, right? Africa is not a major polluter on the global scene, but South Africa has played an overly large role in taking money for this just energy transition stuff in a way that is disproportionate to the need. So what I'm trying to put across is inaction on education. If you go to pick a clinic, right, clinic in Piri, and ask them, has your clinic improved? Not really. But if you look at the areas where there's been a focus, the infrastructure projects, this renewable energy independent power producer plan program, that REIPPP, that one, you will see a lot of action. So I do think that there's been a disposition and the temperament where he has positioned himself as, I'm a consensus builder, I listen to all the people in the room, I'll take a long time to choose the Chief Justice, I may not even be the one who wants to make that decision. But if you look at that Operation Vulindlela and everything associated there, and some of the winners and losers, I mean, Rupert has got an energy exchange now, Motsepe is a big player in that space, over half of the renewable energy contracts in one of the bid windows went to the Imkamva Consortium, which is one company which has roots in a colonial project in Britain, BICC, or whatever the name of that company is. If you look at all of that and you break it down,
right,
one side action, one side inaction.
Sure. Okay, we're going to open up for a round of questions. I think let's take 3 hands, and we'll come back to our panelists. Again, if you can just try and be brief, and also appeal to the panelists in your responses to be brief, so we can take one more round after that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Selokela Slumolamudi. A big thank you to the SMWX team for such a great discussion. I just want to find out.
Where are you? Sorry.
I'm over
we
here.
We actually can't see.
At the back.
Okay,
genuinely can't
yes.
see.
Yeah, right. Welcome. Thank you.
Right. So I just want to find out from the panelists, and I know everyone in the room will roll their eyes when I say we are a resilient nation as South Africans, but we are.
We are.
And I just want to find out from you guys then, how do we revive the hope and activism on the ground so that we are no longer spectators, like Tessa highlighted? That's a question for all 3 of you.
Thank you so much. Great question. Yeah, I think let's take the 3 in this row, and then we'll come back to another round after that.
Oh, it's me?
Yes, Petani.
Yes.
Okay. How did you see me?
I saw you long ago.
Okay.
We don't see you anymore, but...
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is Petani, some fellow from Venda. So there where I come from, this evil practice of dismembering people when they're still alive, you know? It's called Uvia, so it's very common. Even in the village close to mine, it was done recently. But the analogy that I'm trying to draw into is that that's what the ANC has been doing on the state, dismembering the states by themselves. So now they've found partners to be able to work together on that. But the problem is that there's the conflict of interest of where do we start? Do we start with the hand? Do we start with the head? Which part of the body do we dismember first? And these interests are mostly shown in the contest that the DA has on the interests of the state, being the person that they're killing. So as Tessa was speaking, and also Jamie plus and Qaanitah, on how the inaction of the current government that we have in the so-called GNU, which is the genuine name. So what really could be the correct political imagination that we can see to try to reimagine a future in which the state is not being dismembered while still alive. Thanks.
Great. I've been informed that we've actually run out of time largely, and there is food awaiting. So, Lukhona, I think we're going to take you as the last person to ask a question. We'll then just have some final concluding thoughts, so you can make a comment. You don't have to answer all the questions exhaustively.
Thanks, Sizwe. I just wanted to make sure that my name is not used in vain. My name is Lukhona Mnguni, and I'm very grateful for your timekeeping because Orlando Pirates is playing soon. And Sundowns is about to win on away goal.
Absolutely. And on the weekend, Liverpool 1-1. Will then win the league. So we need to watch that too. So
it's a very big weekend. I want to start with Qaanitah's analogy because it's instructive. In customary law, Undlunkulu, both in custom and now in our case law, actually does have significant rights that can be eroded by the cheating husband. And the truth is that the only party that had an input in the text of the statement of intent is the DA, outside of the ANC. And I think we must not be led by the emotions of politicians to understand the reality of what is at play currently. My biggest fear is that the GNU is further eroding the role of parliament. And the reversal of the VAT is highly possibly unconstitutional and unlawful at the point in time as we speak. Everybody can play along. It's fine to play along with the VAT reversal. The question of legality, how you remove a bill that you've already introduced, which part of the law you are relying on, and what aspects of the law become null and void, and what is the meaning of resolutions of parliament. The fiscal framework and revenue proposals are adopted by the National Council of Provinces and the National Assembly. There's a reason for that. Nobody wants to account what is the role of the fiscal framework and revenue proposals as we sit here today. And how can you revoke a resolution of parliament outside of parliament at some hotel through a press briefing that took place yesterday? The second thing, Sizwe, that I want to say, because I'm really worried. I've just seen, nicely I'm in an MK group. I'm in many WhatsApp groups. Advocate, I just shocked you.
Exactly. Well, this is the MK podcast, so...
Yeah. I mean, even Jamie once tried on an MK shirt. I don't know I would have the guts to do that. MK is supposedly saying it's doing something that's accountability, but again, it's an unconstitutional thing. They have submitted a motion of no confidence on the Minister of Finance. You can't submit a motion of no confidence on a single cabinet member. Section 102 of the Constitution is very clear. It's either on cabinet or the president. So I'm worried about where we are. I'm significantly worried about where South Africa is. And politics preceding lawfulness. And I'm not sure what your panel has to say about this. And lastly, Sizwe, the point, we are here because of the attitude and conduct of Minister Kodongwana, not the DA. You can't surprise your cabinet colleagues. The fact that everybody had flown into Cape Town on the 19th of February and was ready for 2 p.m. for the minister to deliver the budget. But he informed cabinet and GNU members of the 2% VAT increase hours before delivering the budget. That's the real crisis point here. And what we need to question is whether the role of National Treasury as it currently sits is duty fit. Because yes, budgeting starts elsewhere and you walk the path. But where the revenue comes from, the cabinet itself was informed hours before. Otherwise, they wouldn't have flown into Cape Town.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lukhona. Shout out to you as well as another friend of SMWX. I think the only reason you probably didn't end up on this panel is we weren't 100% sure whether you'd be able to. Yeah, we didn't know if you'd be in your MK group or here. So. Look, we've heard a lot of interesting interventions. I think all we can do now is 2-minute final reflections on your thoughts. Let us, in this Freedom Day event, then liberate our audience to go and eat, drink, and be merry. So, final reflections in 2 minutes.
I'm gonna make you go and find this for yourself. There's a current MP that says, "The politicians have eaten. It's time for the people to eat." Famously, and it's one of my favorite political quotes at the moment. But I am going to address each one, but in the shortest way I can possibly do it. Lukhona, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. That is the political context in which we are in. We want the glory without the work. And that's why I was lamenting the fact that there's been this entire process of months, and it's only on the day of that anyone can do anything about anything. I think the issue that you raise about the constitutionality is most pressing for the DA. Because right now the DA is happy to celebrate a decision that they have just gone to court to declare unconstitutional.
Yes.
Our problem is going to start on the 29th of April. Because if the court comes back and says the DA was right, we are all sakakid. We are all inside. And this is again why Parliament always needed to be held to a higher standard. These are your lawmakers. How many of us even know how to name more than 10 of them if they are not a minister? We need to do better knowing who our parliamentarians are, knowing what their work is, and asking them to do their damn jobs. That's the only response I have for you, Lux. On the question about cutting up the state while it's still alive, one of the issues with the Ramaphosa presidency that I didn't name earlier is the wanton hollowing out of the state and delegating of his powers to anyone who will come. Somebody asked me, who's the president listening to? I said, the last person he spoke to. Because he will give away his delegated powers to anyone, it would seem. And I really think that we need to start asking ourselves questions. Why do we have 31 different commissions? Why do we have small project management desks in the office? Why do we not have well thought through and well-defined ministries? And why are we not investing into the state the best possible minds and resources this country has to offer? If you look at the names on those commissions of the president, he clearly knows the best minds. They're just not paid in the state on a regular basis. They're being paid over and above the people whose jobs they're doing. We truly must not give up on the state, and we must not allow politicians to use the state just to leak out money to their friends who don't actually want to do the work on a daily basis. The last question I have to answer from SLU, because it's my daily job, getting this country to take itself seriously from the bottom up. As citizens, we must remember that democracy means that the people shall govern themselves, not the government shall govern. And so we must ask ourselves, how do we start governing on a day-to-day basis? How do we start taking action? How do we start using our own power on a daily basis? How do we start questioning systems when they keep us out? We are a disorganized society, and I'm going to ask us to start organizing ourselves. Political parties get things right because they organize. Let's start organizing ourselves so that we can have more power, more opportunities so that we can press back and push back, but we have to start taking ourselves seriously as the citizens.
Thanks so much, Tessa. 2 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, so I've got a timer. Let me get it going. So I think one of the things that is important to think about when thinking about the statement of intent and the deal between the DA and others and the ANC is whether or not it's a contract in and of itself, Lukhona. And I think that's why it's called a statement of intent. And I just pulled up my law notes here quickly. I'm going to go through it, right? Contracts are agreements between parties who have an intention to create legal rights and duties between both of the parties. And one of the elements there is that you need agreement, you need consensus, you need a meeting of the minds. I don't think there's actually been a meeting of the minds between the DA and the ANC and the other members of the coalition around what actually does this document mean. Because I think you're right that it was perhaps more drafted by the DA and they were so gleeful that they got Section 19 and we've got this provision that allows us to then veto everything. So I don't think it's a contract. And particularly if you think about when you look at Pacta di Contrahendo, I hope my law lecturer is proud today. It's an agreement to make a contract in the future. And I think that's what the statement of intent was. But there is no agreement. There's no legally enforceable agreement. So I think in principle, the DA is justified to say, but we gave you guys the presidency. You're stepping all over our feet. You're not consulting us. You're not speaking to us. What the hell is going on? And because we know that we can hold you to account on the budget side of things, we are going to really put your feet to the fire. But I don't think there's an agreement. And I do think some of these issues, unfortunately, will have to be solved through the political side. I still got 30 seconds, Sizwe. So the last thing I want to speak about really around Petani's question and a little bit of Slu's question is that we have to shift this demonization of the institution called the state. We all know civil servants. We know teachers. We know nurses. They spend their own money, they sacrifice, they come home late, they do all manner of overtime to make sure that South Africans can get a little bit of service. They do their very best and they bleed on the front lines, but they're not capacitated. There's a lot of corruption at the top, a lot of inefficiency in middle management, but the reality is that the state is a necessary actor and the civil service does need to be supported and capacitated in a way that you will see real delivery. This narrative that the DA has been using and that is used by neoliberals around the world so that they can push for privatization is one that we ought to challenge with the contemporary economic thinking and really not allow, because certain people have a particular race that they know better economics, they know better about business, they know better about the role of the state. We have to challenge that thinking. We have to capacitate. And by the way, you can have the best roads. You can have the best. I know. So I went a little bit over. Just 50 seconds over. Just give me 10 more seconds. So what I want to say is that the best roads and the best minds are not going to improve the economy in the township or the rural areas. There needs to be an investment in those classrooms. There needs to be an investment in people. The last 31 years, all of the discourse has been around these macroeconomic priorities. But moving forward, we really need to say, how are you investing in human potential and the people on the ground? That's what every developed nation is doing around the world.
Yeah. Absolutely. Give it up for Mighti Jamie, everyone. Qaanitah, you have 10 seconds.
Sorry.
Because Jamie stole from you.
It's okay. Expropriate without compensate.
Don't leave the GNU, please.
Look, I just want to say to you that you are 100% right in saying that the problem started with the finance minister, but it's symptomatic of the ANC's amnesia that it lost power, right? So they just approached budget as they always would have, and that's, you would think the president would have been reminded to say, hey, we can't have the same process because we are not the governing party. Because you'd remember there used to be a finance minister, Tito Mboweni, who used to fight with even the Truly House and with the NEC to say, hey, as treasury we tell you how money is spent. And so there was this untouchable thing about the treasury's budget office, and so that same attitude walked into the room. And so the DA was doing its role in withdrawing in budget one. That's what the DA was doing was great. When it did what it did on that weekend of the NEC, that's when things went. I think I started the conversation a bit late to say that concession that the finance minister put us in this. Of course, you forgot that you've lost power really. So that's an old conversation, right? And then just to wrap up by saying two things. One, the conversation about reform of the system is one you guys all have to go out and take it wherever you are. It's a boring conversation, but guys, we're going to see this over and over and over again. And the second thing is that this world, coalitions is not going to go away. And so we can't wish it away. And what coalitions need from us is our participation. We outsourced politics to the politicians. It didn't work. We then took it back. Now we have to do something with this power that we have as people. So let's just do something with it. Thank you.
Give it up for our excellent panel, everyone. Thank you all so much. We hand over to Oratile, our producer, who's going to just give a vote of thanks, and then we're done.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us the whole night. Luckily, I've been checking at the back. No one's been sleeping. We haven't lost anyone on the seats yet. But I think also just the last batch of people that we want to recognize and really thank for being here. Vusite Maguayo's in the house at the back there. Thank you very much for coming through. Advocate Mfesane Kasiboto, who was on a very, very important case this week, is also in the house. Thank you so much for coming. Prof. Madlin Gozi from the Human Rights Commission is also here. Thanks so much for joining us, Prof. And some of our media colleagues, Tidi Madia from EWN is here as well. Lungelo KM was also in the digital media space. He's somewhere. Engineer Your Life podcast. Thank you so much for being here as well. And some of our SMWX family, thank you so much for coming. Lukona Mguni, Tasnim Esop, Mbali Ntuli, Shadrach Kubiane, our friends from Standard Bank, Singobile, thank you so much for coming. And everyone in the audience, this is really why we wanted to come together and have this live event, so that we can engage and connect. But before I go, we're going to have a bit of a who knows SMWX best. We've got some books here sponsored by Shadrach Kubiane from ePharma. We will see who gets lucky tonight and wins, I think, the best book in exclusive books right now. Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh's The New Apartheid. The first question, how old is SMWX? There's a hand? 6 years old. A round of applause. That's correct. The second question, what is the most viewed episode on SMWX? You're going to get into trouble for this answer, by the way, but
Okay.
Lugelo. Thank you, that's correct. And a special shout out again to David Mashabela. He's had to leave, but he was really the inspiration for this live event, and we want to really thank him for pushing us to do this. And the very last question is, when did Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh publish The New Apartheid? Yeah. Qaanitah? She's got one. Okay. Anyone in the audience? Solana? We'll give it to you because you're the only one that tried. Thank you so much to Shadrach Kubiane, who has sponsored these books for us to be able to do this giveaway. We really, really appreciate it. Once again, thank you to the audience who are live with us on SMWX on the YouTube channel. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. 13,000 people have tuned into this live event. Thank you so much. We've also got a special gift here. This person can collect it afterwards. Sponsored by Qoitech for the social media post of the night. Goes to Zakiti Mtembu. She's in the audience. You can see us afterwards to get your prize. And just a big thanks to our sponsors, Artistry, for this amazing venue and these facilities. A huge, huge, huge thank you for this. Pace Car Rental, who's been an amazing partner for SMWX, has also supported this live event. Sky Bookings, who has done ticketing and guest management. Also a big shout out to you. AdReach has been an advertising partner. You might have driven around Joburg and seen some live event posters. Thank you to AdReach for that. And again, Qoitech for sponsoring the gifts for tonight. Thank you in the audience for coming out. Over 100 of you have come together for our first ever live event. A few glitches here and there, but I think we've given a good enough performance for the first one. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you also to the best team in South Africa, the SMWX production team with Narrate Productions, Narrate Studios. And just the last reminder that there's a merch store. I'm told that a security guard at the door will not let you out if you've not got an SMWX merch piece with you. So please do visit our store downstairs. There's lovely hoodies and shirts that we're selling, as well as these books by Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh. There will be refreshments served downstairs in the listening bar. Please do enjoy, network, get to know each other. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thank you.